Hello and welcome to the second yoga session that we are doing for Fortified Coaching. For those of you who didn't make the last session, my name is Claire Gray and I'll be going through your Vinyasa floor yoga with you today. We will have a similar kind of pattern as we did on the last session, but we will be mixing up a little bit, so there'll be new postures, but we will be following, as I say, the same routine. So we're going to kind of settle into our class to start with. We will be doing some mobilisation of our joints, warming up a little bit with a Vinyasa floor, and then we're going to be going into more traditional static yoga postures. So just a little bit of kind of housekeeping and setting up for the day. First of all, just checking that you're wearing comfortable attire and you are in a place where you have plenty of space. If you have a yoga mat, that's brilliant. If you don't have a yoga mat, it's just about making sure that in the space that you're using, you are able to grip to the floor, whether that be bare feet or with some yoga socks or some grippy socks on, just to help you with your stability and your balances. When we have a mat, I do say quite a bit, stepping back from the top of the mat or from the bottom of the mat. If I'm at the top of the mat, it just means making sure that you've got room to step behind you. At the bottom of the mat, making sure that you can step forward. Also, with regards to other props, I do have a block and a strap today. As ever, if you've got them and you want to use them, that's fantastic. If not, they're not compulsory. You can improvise with some things around the house. You might want to use doors, chairs, tables for any balance that we might be using a block or a brick for. You can use rolled up towels and even a dressing gown cord does the same job as one of these straps as well. So I will be giving you options throughout the session. This is suitable for people all the way from beginners up to those wanting to push themselves a little bit further. And as ever, if it gets a bit too much or if you need to take a breather, that's absolutely fine. We are going to go into a child's pose quite soon, so you will be able to see that posture. And that's where I recommend, if people do need to just have those couple of breaths, just kind of take that pause and then join back in with us whenever you feel ready. So to start the class off today, we are just going to go onto our back. So we're going to start off on our back as opposed to in that seated position. So just coming down onto your mat, nice and gently until your head touches down. And we're just going to spend a little bit of time here just relaxing into the session and kind of setting our intention for the day. So try now to leave everything that you've left today or everything you've done today at the door. It needs to be outside of this class. This is just a bit of time that you've managed to carve out for yourself and focus on you and focus on what you want to get out of this class. We're going to start by thinking about our breath and our breathing for a little bit. So in yoga, we do try where we can to breathe in through our nose and back out through our nose. So sealing up the lips. And I totally appreciate that, especially if you're new to yoga, this might be quite difficult. You might want to work on the breathing later on, further down the line. The breathing will come, but I can assure you that when it does click, when you get that breathing in time with the movements that you're doing, it will really enhance your postures, your ability, your stability, your balance. So have a go if you can, but don't worry too much if you think I'm not breathing in when she's saying breathing in, or I'm not breathing out. Say, just go with what's right for you. You might be concentrating on your body to start with. So sealing up the lips, we're going to start slowing our breathing down. So taking some nice breaths in through the nose and out through the nose. And from here, we're just going to start mobilising and warming into our joints a little bit. So just bringing your knees up, wrapping your arms around your shins and just giving yourself a nice little hug. So pulling those knees in towards the chest, and at this point maybe having a little rock from side to side, massaging the lower spine against the mat. From here, I'd like you to keep hold of your right knee and gently start lowering your left foot. And it might be that your foot comes in contact with the mat, or you might be able to straighten that leg right out, flat to the mat, and give your right foot or your right knee, a little bit of a bigger pull in towards the armpit. So it's not coming straight up in front of you, slightly in towards the armpit. And you'll feel a nice stretch in that hip. And maybe just do a few little circles in your hip joint in one direction and then in the other. They don't need to be very big. We're just starting to warm into that now. Lovely. When you're ready, bring that left leg up to meet the right and drop the right. Either sole of your foot down the mat or your leg all the way down, and then give that left foot a little hug in towards the armpit, feeling that pull, and then just making those small circles in one direction. And then in the other direction. Brilliant. Bringing both knees up, we're going to just rotate our ankles in one direction. Might feel lots of clicks and pops, that's all good. And then in the other direction, just mobilising into those ankle joints. And stop. Take your hands to the backs of your thighs now, and we're going to start just rocking backwards and forwards a little bit, starting small, getting a bit bigger, maybe 3 or 4 of these, and coming up to a seated position. From here, spin the legs round, and we're going to go into a tabletop position to warm through our spine and our wrists. So tabletop position, we're having our shoulders over the wrists, our hands spread nice with our fingers wide. We want to have our hips over our knees, and from this position with a nice flat back, we're going to go through some cat-cow postures. So these two flow together, and they're a really good way to warm through the spine. So on your next in-breath, I'm going to ask you to drop your belly towards the mat, lift your tailbone to the sky, lift your gaze to the sky, making that lovely arch in that back. And as you're breathing out, reverse that, arching up like a cat, taking your gaze down between your knees, pulling your belly button up towards your spine, tucking your head under, your tailbone under, and gaze down between your knees. Breathing in, dropping the belly, taking the gaze high, and breathing out, arching that back and taking the gaze between the knees. And work through a few cycles of your own breath. So as you're breathing in, performing that cow posture, and as you're breathing out, the cat posture. Something really nice to do here is as you're moving your back, you'll be able to feel little bits of tightness or where you feel you need to stretch. So just intuitively have a stretch, kind of freestyle it. So you might need to roll into your hips or into your shoulders, just whatever feels good, just to get that nice warm feeling coming through the core of your body. And when you're ready, just come into stillness. From here, we're just going to rotate clockwise a few times on those wrists. Just taking the weight over and round. And then the other way. And come into stillness. We're going to go into that child's pose now, so it is a good warming up stretch, but also just to demonstrate where you are able to go if you do need to take that short breath or that short break. So what I'm going to get you to do is place your toes together, so your toes touching, widen your knees so they're towards the edge of your mat, and I'd like you to sit down so your bum comes towards your heels, and as you do that, walk the hands forward, and if you can, take your head to the mat. If your bum's not touching your heels, if your head's not touching the mat, you might want to put something underneath it, be it a towel or a yoga brick, and you can just work towards getting one of those or both of those down. You should be feeling a nice stretch all the way from your hands. Can you walk your fingers a little bit further forward, maybe? Intensifying that stretch from your hands all the way up your arms, up your back, towards your bum, and also that lovely stretch in the inner thighs and the glutes as well. We'll just take a few breaths here. So this is a wide-legged child's pose. When we're doing our vinyasa, we will be doing what's called just a normal or a narrow leg child pose. But just do whichever feels comfortable for you if you need to go into that relaxed pose for a period of time. And when you're ready, we'll just make our way up into a comfortable seated position. So hopefully you now feel that you've mobilised, you're warming through your joints a little bit. And we're going to go through the same vinyasa flow that we worked on last week. So don't worry if you don't remember it. We're going to do it in exactly the same way. So I'm going to demonstrate it for you. You just watch while I'm demonstrating it, and then we're going to break it down nice and slowly, working through the different postures, transitioning between them, giving some teaching points as to how to get the most effect from these postures. And then we're going to speed it up a little bit. So we'll go from maybe 4 breaths to 2 breaths to breath for breath. So that means every time we take a breath in or out, we're moving into the next posture. So we're going to work this vinyasa, this sun salutation, which is sun salutation A, for a few weeks. And then we're going to try another couple of options, the sun sal B and C, which do follow a similar pattern, but are slightly more advanced or a few more complicated moves within them. So as I say, I'm going to demonstrate it for you first. So I'll start by standing at the top of my mat in my mountain pose. Breathe in, extended mountain pose. Breathe out, forward fold. Breathe in, flat back. Breathe out, forward fold. Breathe in, stepping back into high or low plank. Breathing out, lowering down into chaturanga to the mat. Breathing in, back bend. I will give you different options for that. Breathing out, different options. You can come into child's pose and then up into downward facing dog, or you can go straight into downward facing dog, and I will show you that more when we go through it slowly. Breathing in, stepping into flat back. Breathing out, forward fold. Breathing in, extended mountain or Tadasana. Breathing out, hands to heart centre. So if you can now stand up and join me at the top of your mat, we'll go through step by step each of those postures. So we're starting in that Tadasana or that mountain pose. So you're standing with your feet roughly hip width apart, and you're making your body nice and straight. And I always say, this is a reference, try and feel as if there's a piece of string at the top of your head pulling you up, so you've got nice posture. You roll your shoulders back and round, down your shoulder blades, and your palms are facing the sides of your legs or slightly towards the front of the room, and gaze is just straight ahead. So from this mountain pose, we're going to extend it, and to do that, on our next in-breath, we're simply going to lift our arms up and over. Again, thinking about your posture, trying to make yourself nice and tall, and having those upper arms against or next to, in line with the sides of your ears. Again, your gaze just looking ahead, and your palms are now facing each other. On your out breath, we're going to go to our first forward fold. So you're going to hinge at the waist and come down, just as it says, into a forward fold. This is our first one. You might feel quite tight in the legs, the hamstrings all the way up. That's fine. Not expecting anybody to have their legs fully straight at this point. You could have a good bend in them, and it doesn't matter where your hands are coming to. They might be on your legs, they might be on your feet, they might be on the mat. But you will find, as you work through this sun salutation, you'll be getting further down. You'll feel a difference just in this one class. Really important here is that we aren't holding pressure or tension in our neck and then craning it up and looking around. Hang your head down like ragdoll, taking that gaze between the legs. So your head's acting as a weight, actually pulling your legs or pulling your body further down towards the ground. And our next in-breath, we're going to put our hands to our shins and come into a nice flat back position. So you're trying to get your back so it's parallel to the ground. You'll feel a more intense stretch here down the backs of the legs, and taking your gaze ahead, slightly down towards the ground, so maybe it's a 45-degree angle. And on our next out breath, we're returning back down into that forward fold. You might already be feeling you can get a little bit further down, or your legs are a bit straighter. If so, that's great. From here, we're going to transition into a plank. So that could be a high plank or a low plank. So taking one foot and stepping it back and taking the other to join it. So you might be in a nice high plank on your toes, or especially now we're warming up, so it's fine as an option, you might go onto your knees and untuck your toes. It doesn't matter which one you're in. You can chop and change through the session, but what we're looking for here is our shoulders to be above our wrists, and we're wanting to have a nice straight line from our head all the way down to the point of contact on the ground, whether that be your knees or your feet. So we don't want anybody sagging or lifting up too high at this point. It's a nice straight line. From here, we're going to chaturanga down. So we're going to transition down onto the mat, and doing this, try and nip your elbows into your ribs and very controlled, lower it down to the mat. Again, that could be from your knees or from your toes, whichever you want. From here, we're going to breathe in and go into our first back bend. So because it's the first one and we're warming up, we're just going to do a little baby cobra. Just a small lift of the chest from the mat. Try not to put all of our weight through our hands. We are using some of the back muscles to pull ourselves up. The next variation, so the next stages of this, could be a full cobra, where you come higher up, and at this point you're lifting your hip bones, your pubic bones off the mat. Or the next one could be an upward facing dog. And for this, you're putting your weight through the tops of your feet, so your shins, your knees, your thighs, your hips are all lifted. But have a play about with that. So whichever back bend you're in now, come back down to the mat, breathing out, tuck your toes under, and your first option is to go back into a child's pose with your knees narrow, and then lift up into a downward facing dog. And just while you're there, I'm going to show you the other options. So you might want to come from your back bend, come down, tuck your toes and come straight up into that downward facing dog. So you don't have to do the child's position in the pose in the middle, that's your call. So looking at our positioning here for our downward facing dog, we want our fingers spread nice and wide, our weight equally distributed between our hands and our feet. We're looking for a straight line if we can, all the way from our hands up through our shoulders and up to our bum. So gleaming on, lifting those hips up to the sky. We are working towards straightening our legs and possibly lowering our heels to the mat. But initially, people won't tend to have that. You may well have a good bend in your knees. My heels don't usually at the beginning of the class meet the mat, but hopefully towards the end we'll see that a little bit more. From here, we're going to roll forward and step one foot and the other back between our hands, breathing in, coming into that flat back we've already done. So hands to shins, gaze ahead, breathing out, back into that forward fold. Again, hopefully noticing you're feeling a little bit more stretchy up the backs of the legs there. Breathing in, coming up to that extended mountain pose, and breathing out. Finally, hands to heart centre. So we will speed that up a little bit now. So we're not going to go through quite as many of those teaching points. I will give some, but we're going to go roughly 2 breaths per posture. Once we've done that, we'll go into 1 breath per posture, and we're going to run through that twice. So starting at the top of the mat in that mountain pose, breathe in, extend that mountain pose, lifting arms to the sky, feeling nice and tall. Breathing out, folding down, head hanging low, no pressure in that neck. Breathing in, flat back, hands to shins, black back parallel to the ground. Breathing out, back into that forward fold. Breathing in, stepping back into high or low plank, your choice. Breathing out, chaturanga, elbows tucked, coming down to the mat. Breathing in, your choice of back bend, you decide your level. Breathing out, tucking the toes and coming into downward dog, whether that be straight in or through child's pose, and then lifting the hips. Breathing in, into flat back position. Breathing out, forward fold again, and breathing in, extend that mountain pose, and breathing out, hands to heart center. So we're going to go two runs through back to back, straight in. So when you're ready, coming back to the top of the mat, so we're going to breathe in, extended mountain pose, breathe out, forward fold, breathe in, flat back, breathe out, forward fold, breathe in, step back into plank variation, breathe out, chaturanga, breathe in, back bend, breathe out, downward facing dog, breathe in, step or jump in to flat back, breathe out, forward fold, breathe in, extended mountain pose, breathe out, hands to heart center, and again breathing in, extended mountain pose, breathe out, forward fold, breathe in, flat back, breathe out, forward fold, breathe in, stepping back into plank, breathe out, chaturanga down, breathe in, back bend, breathe out, into downward facing dog, breathe in, step into flat back, breathe out, forward fold, breathe in, extended mountain pose, breathe out, hands to heart center. So hopefully we'll be nice and warm now, having done that. And some of the movements that we've done within that sun salutation will come with us into the next section of the class. So we're going to move into our vinyasa flow now. So vinyasa flow incorporates some of those movements and some more traditional postures that we hold, but it strings them all together. So we do get our heart rate up quite a bit. We are moving quite constantly with some poses and some holds. But just tend to get a little bit of a sweat on this one. So as I've said before, you need a rest, just go back into that child's pose. People will be moving at different speeds, that's absolutely fine. We will always wait for people and we'll meet up in a certain posture in our downward facing dog. So don't worry if you're having to move a little bit slower, it's fine. So we're going to start this in our downward facing dog, and we'll go through which part is the vinyasa, so you will very quickly pick up the bit that flows between those movements. So coming into tabletop position, opening the fingers nice and wide, tucking the toes, and then coming into our first downward facing dog with the vinyasa floor. So as I say, we will meet here between every floor, every posture, and it's not about a race. You do it nice and controlled. So from here, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to lift our right leg to the sky. And don't worry about how high up it is. What I want you to concentrate on is keeping the weight evenly distributed between your hands, and also keeping your hips as square as you can to the ground. We're going to roll forward so that our shoulders come over our wrists, and we're going to bring our knee through and step it between your hands. You might need to give it a little shove. It's absolutely fine if you need to use your hands to get there. Drop your back knee, uncurl your toes. From here, we're going to keep our left hand planted on the mat, and we're going to twist our back and lift the right arm up to the sky. So what we're looking for here is a nice straight line from our hand on the mat to our hand in the sky, and we're taking our gaze up to that hand. Just spending a couple of breath cycles here. When you're ready, plant that hand back down again and tuck the back toe, lift the back knee, stepping back. Now you can step back into a high plank or a low plank, just like with that sun salutation. And from here, we're going to chaturanga down to the mat. Breathe in, back bend of choice, you pick your level, and then coming back into downward facing dog. So that bit there, that was our flow, our vinyasa between our movements. Now we'll go on the left side, so lifting the left leg to the sky, holding it there for just a few seconds, checking that you've got that weight evenly distributed and your hips are square. Roll forward, step or wriggle that foot between the hands, drop the back knee, uncurl the toe, And this time we're keeping our right hand planted. So we're going to take the left one to the ceiling. So lovely twist in your spine there. Trying to get that gaze up towards the hand. Plant that hand back down again. Tuck the toe, lift the knee. Stepping back into your high or your low plank and working through that vinyasa. So chaturanga down at the mat. Back bend of choice, whichever level you wish. And making your way back into that downward facing dog. Everybody meeting here now, ready to go into the next position. So from here, back to the right leg, so lift that to the sky. Rolling forward, stepping through in between, but do not drop the back knee this time. And what we're going to do from here is we're going to come up and breathe in, lift the arms up over the head. So this is warrior one. So what we're looking for here is our hips are squared off and facing the same direction as that front foot. Also, we want to have our knee over our ankle, so we should be feeling some strength in that front leg, but also a nice stretch in that left hip. We're wanting to have our top of our arms up in line with our ears, hands facing together, pointing up and gaze looking straight ahead. Try to tuck the tailbone under slightly, and that'll really intensify that stretch in that back hip, that left hip. When you're ready, we're going to reach down, frame the foot again, stepping back and working through the vinyasa. So breathing out, chaturanga down. Inhale into your back bend, and then finding your way through into the downward facing dog. Now we're going to lift the left leg, so same on this side also. Squaring the hips, making the weight equally distributed, rolling forward, stepping in between those hands, and when you're ready, breathing in and coming up into that warrior one. So making sure that we have the hips in the same direction as the front foot, tucking that tailbone under a little bit, so you get a lovely stretch in the right hip now, and having those arms pointing up towards the sky. Gaze straight ahead. I'm going to reach down to the mat, framing the foot, stepping back. We'll go through a low plank one this time. So lowering down to the mat, bending my back up into a cobra, and I'm going to come through this time to a child's pose, and then up into that downward facing dog. So mix it up, as I say. Do whatever level suits you. You can completely miss out a vinyasa if you want to, if you need to do that for a rest. And you've always got that option of going into child's pose. So from the warrior one that we've done, we're going to start building on that a little bit now. So lift the right leg to the sky, roll forward, take that step between your hands, breathe on in, coming up into warrior one, and we're going to transition now into warrior two. So to do that, we're going to twist around, take our hips to the front of the room now. So what we're looking for here is we want our knee to be over our ankle, we want our right foot to be facing forward, our left foot should be at 90 degrees to that. You want your front heel in line with your back arch. And just check for now your knee and your toe. Can you see your toe from where you are? If you can't, that knee's probably flop forward a bit. Try and push it out. Arms will be out, palms facing the ground, and gaze over the front fingers. Can you drop just a little bit further into that front leg? That's where it burns. From here, windmill the arms around, trim the front foot, stepping back and working through your vinyasa of choice. So chaturanga, bend, meeting in our downward facing dog. Now lifting the left leg to the sky, and again we're building on that warrior one, so sweeping the leg through, breathing in to come into that warrior one, and transitioning into warrior two. So this time we've got our left leg is the leading leg and bent. Check that toe, can you see it? Is your knee falling in? Are your feet in the right alignment? Arms out, palms facing down. And again, just dropping a little bit further into that front leg. And when you're ready, windmilling the hands around, pivoting on the back foot, stepping into that plank and going through that vinyasa. So chaturanga, back bend, meeting in downward facing dog. We've got one more thing to build on, to add on to that sequence that we've been working on. So lifting the right leg, coming forward, stepping through the centre, breathing in, coming up into that warrior one with the hips in the direction of your foot, twisting round into warrior two now, checking that we've got our feet, our base correct, and once we have, what I want you to do is to take your right elbow and place it onto your right knee, and on your next in-breath, swoop your arm up and over. So you've got a lovely straight line from your hand, left hand all the way to the left foot. You'll feel a lovely stretch in that rib cage. If you can, take your gaze up and under your armpit. Just sometimes knock you off balance a little. And then we'll come back up again into warrior two. And from here, hands framing that front foot, stepping back and working through our sequence. So exhale, chaturanga, inhale, back bend, and then meeting back in downward facing dog. And now we've got to do it on the other side to finish the vinyasa. So lifting the left leg to the sky, rolling forward and stepping through, coming nice and smoothly up into warrior one, twisting the hips, changing the position into warrior two, again checking that posture, look at your knee, can you see your toe, is everything in line? And then this time taking our left elbow, putting it just on our left knee, and as we inhale, swoop that right arm up and over, looking for that lovely straight line from hand to foot, and taking the gaze up under your armpit. And when you're ready, come back in to warrior two, taking the arms around the front foot, stepping back and working through that vinyasa. So chaturanga down, back bend, into downward facing dog. And we'll just take a couple of breaths here, just to compose ourselves, settle our breathing. From here, just drop the knees down, open the legs so your knees come to the side of the mat and having your toes together, and we'll go into a child's pose just for a few additional breaths. So remember, trying to get your bum to your feet, and if you can, your head to the mat, and just give your head a little massage. Just roll that head gently side to side on the floor of the mat. And come to stillness. So working your way up now, we're going to come into a standing position, and we're going to have a bit of a go of that forward fold, just to feel the difference in your body from doing the first one right at the beginning, where I know I had my knees quite bent. See if it feels different now. So standing in the middle of the mat, in that mountain pose. We're going to breathe in, extend our arms up over our heads, and as we breathe out, folding forward. Now, you'll know if it feels better, if you can get further down, if your legs are straighter. Hopefully all of those are the case. But making sure your head is hanging down there, so it's a weight, it's not being held up by your muscles in your neck. So from here, take hold of your ankles, and on your next in-breath, straighten the arms and straighten the back and take the gaze ahead. So we're not going into a full flat back, we should be further down, a bit lower down, but you will feel that intense stretch now in the backs of the legs. Keeping hold of the ankles, breathe out, flop back down again, maybe pulling yourself a bit closer, opening the elbows, flaring them out. And we'll do that again, so breathing in, straightening the arms, taking the gaze ahead, and breathing out, folding back down, flaring those elbows out if we can. One more time, breathing in, flattening that back, straightening the arms, and breathing out, going back down into that forward fold. We're going to come to standing now, but we're going to do it gently. So from here, we'll start rolling up through the spine, stacking vertebrae by vertebrae, so we get our head finally coming up last. Just have a little shake off there. We're now going to go into a few standing balances. Don't worry if you're wobbling about, completely normal. It's just about building on your stability. It could all depend on the day of the week, how you're feeling, the floor, the mat, whatever you're using. If you fall, you're not falling anywhere, you're not going anywhere. So just have a try. If you need to hold on to something, that's absolutely fine. So the first one we're going to have a try at doing is a standing figure 4. So standing with your feet hip width apart, I want you to start putting your weight through your right leg. So shifting the weight onto the right leg. Lift up the left foot, and if you can, cross it over your knee. It might be that you only get your legs to here, but if you can, cross it over that knee, over that thigh. And when you get your balance, take your hands to heart centre. That might be enough for you. Or try and sit down into a squat with one leg and just have a few breaths here. Helps to focus on a point in front of you, which isn't a moving object. If you're wobbling, that's fine. You're probably feeling the tiny little muscles in your ankle twitching away there. That's great. That means we're improving our balance, our stability, and working those little muscles which help us in functional movements every day. From here, nice and controlled, come back to standing, free up that leg and place it back down on the mat. Maybe just have a little shake out of your legs there. On the other side now, so we're taking our weight this time through our left foot, getting our balance and taking that foot, giving that a bit of a help with our hands to get it across the knee or the thigh. Hands to heart centre and taking a nice squat. It could be tiny, we could have dropped an inch or two. Anything you can manage. If you fall, give your legs a little shake off and just try and come back and join us. And when you can, you're ready, nice and controlled, bring the foot down the mat. So we'll try 1 or 2 balances every time we have a class. Try some different things, we'll come back to them, see where you've improved. So we're now going to go into a yogic squat. So we all know the squat, so widen the feet, start sinking down, but keep on going. With this one I'll do it side on. So keep on going down, 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 till you can't get any lower. And when you get to that point, press your elbows into your knees by putting your hands in prayer position. You might need for this something to sit on. Might really help you if you've got something underneath, just for some balance. Some people might think this is the easiest thing ever, I could do this all day. Others really struggle with it. If you are struggling with it, I would say to take your feet wider. If you think this is easy, bring your feet narrower and turn your feet in so they're facing the front as opposed to flaring out. But from here, we're going to do some spinal twists. So taking your right hand, place that right in the centre in front of you. Breathing in, reach the opposite arm up towards the sky and take your gaze up towards that hand. Bringing the hand back down through centre now, and we're going to do it on the other side. So keeping your left hand down now, lifting your right up. You'll feel your shoulder pressing into the inner thigh there, that's fine. And when you're ready, come back through centre. Just a few more breaths in that original yogic squat, pressing those knees against your elbows against your knees, really stretching it into the groin and the hips. So now we're just going to get you to gently lower yourself down onto your bottom. Put your legs out in front of you. I'm going to get hold of my strap for this, so this is an option. We're going to do single leg forward fold. So taking your right leg first, I want you to bring it up and push it into your groin or into your thigh, not on your knee. It might come below your knee, it might come above your knee, but don't push it into your knee joint, so wherever it sits comfortably. And I'm going to get you to reach the arms up, breathing in. And on the exhale, I'm going to start folding forward. Now this is where a strap might be good around the foot if you want to use it. But folding forward, and when I mean folding forward, I don't mean flopping over your leg. Try and straighten and lengthen the spine and lean towards your foot. When you can't get any further and you think, I'm going to flop my head down here now, just take your gaze down to your leg. Don't flop that spine. And while we're here, for each breath we're taking, on the in breath, I want you to try and lengthen your spine. And on the out breath, fold a little bit further forward towards that foot. We'll do a few breaths, seeing if we can work our way as close as possible. It doesn't matter if you can't get hold of your foot, your hands could be on your strap, on your ankle, wherever they lie. So lengthen and fold. So just taking the gaze down to wherever your head is settling. And then working your way back up, and then we're going to swap the legs round and do it on the other side. So now pulling that left leg in to wherever is comfortable for you, taking that breath in, reaching the arms up, and as we breathe out, taking that forward fold, so stretching and lengthening through the spine, not flopping over. And remember, once we get to the position we're in, whether you're using a strap or not, breathing in to lengthen that spine a little bit more, and breathing out to see if we can pull ourselves a little bit further forward. And then gently coming back up to seated. So we're now going to go into our final sequence of just a few nice stretches and then into our relaxation to close the session. So back on your mat, I'm going to get you to gently roll down onto your back with your head coming to the mat. Lift those knees back up again and give them another hug like we did at the beginning, but this time round you might want to tuck your head in a little bit, have a little rock from side to side, not too big a rock or you might roll over, but it just gives you a nice little massage on that lower back. From here, take the head back down if you lifted it and place the shins so they're parallel to the ground. Spread your arms nice and wide, palms facing up, and just gently roll your knees over to the right hand side. If they touch the floor, great. If they don't, it's fine. But what you're trying to do, if you can, is to keep both shoulder blades on the mat and take your gaze over your left hand.
If you want a bit more of a stretch, what you can do is you can take your bottom leg, so your right leg, and actually hook it over the left knee. It just gives you a little bit extra weight. You'll feel more of a stretch in the spine and maybe a stretch in the glute when we're doing this. If you have hooked your knee now, unhook it and bring those knees back through centre, rolling them over to the left hand side now, bringing it to the mat if you can, taking your gaze to your right hand this time, focusing on keeping those shoulders on the mat, and then if you want, hook that bottom knee, that left knee over the right. Unhook that knee, bring your legs back through centre, and just to finish now, we're going to do a happy baby, so gleaming the palms, the soles of the feet up to the sky, and reaching up and either through the inside or the outside of your feet, grabbing hold of the soles and pulling your knees in towards your armpits. And just have a little rock here. We really are being happy babies. If you want to try it, you don't have to, you could just stay here. Maybe straighten into one of your legs, keeping hold of that foot. Bend that back in. Straighten into the other. Bring that back. And if you really want a challenge, straighten into both. And back again. So now lower your feet down to the mat. So I'm going to give you a few options for your relaxation. It's just about getting in a comfortable position. This is Shavasana. That doesn't mean corpse pose. That doesn't mean you have to lie in the corpse pose. But the corpse pose is where your legs will be out, flat to the mat, towards the corner of the mat, so they're slightly wider than your hips, and your feet just flop out, and your arms are down by your side with your palms facing the ceiling. If that isn't comfortable, or if you have any issues with your lower back, I wouldn't recommend it. Bring the soles of your feet up to the mat and have your feet slightly wider than your hips on the mat, and just flop your knees in towards each other so they rest on each other. Another option might be recline butterflies, so you might put the soles of your feet together and let your knees flop outwards. Again, not a great one if you've got a back or any back issues. So when you find yourself in your comfortable position, whatever that may be, just start letting that breath go now. So you might have been trying quite hard during this class to control your breath. At this point, I want you to just breathe however feels right. That might be in through your nose and out through your nose, might be in through your nose, out through your mouth, whatever feels good. It's not about controlling it anymore. And if you feel comfortable to do so, just gently close those eyes. And I'm going to go through a guided relaxation with you, which will only take us a few moments, a few minutes. So, where you're lying right now, I want you to move your focus, and I want you to focus into the space where your heart is, so focusing on your chest. And as you're breathing, allow your breath to be felt there. Bring one of your hands to now rest gently on your heart. Adjust your touch so it's light, so you're not pressing weight on there, it's more of a nourishing gesture. And begin to tune into the energy being released from the palm of your hand and how you feel that. Notice the exchange of heat from the palm of your hand warming into your heart. And now allow the heart to respond to the warmth of the connection. Let it soften and expand, and give it permission to open to care, open to love. Now imagine that there's a tiny drop of golden light falling from the centre of your palm into the centre of your heart. And from this tiny speck of glistening light, a sunrise is born. And feel that sun rising in your heart. An optimistic sunrise bathed in the excellence of a new day, new beginnings, brightening and widening your horizons. The warmth of unconditional love and self-confidence is woven on the beams of light that spread in all directions, casting light, excitement and inspiration to the dawn of the new day. The rays of pure energy now move up into your mind, switching on a childlike sense of wonder in the world.
The golden beams move down into your belly, igniting a courage and strength to carve out your own path. The sunrise grows brighter, filling your arms and legs in preparation for the upcoming adventure that is your one wild and precious life. Now this light, it brings a glow to your face. It moves into and illuminates all the cracks and corners of your being. The rays of light begin to draw back to the heart now, but tiny flecks of golden stars are left glistening around your body. The sparks to light the flame of your next existence. And when you're ready, I want you to just start slowly bringing your awareness back into the room. And you could do this by just introducing a few small movements. They could be little wriggles in your fingers and toes. You might start moving your wrists and your ankles a little bit. Maybe just rolling your head from side to side. And when you feel ready and you feel that you're present back in the room, just gently take your knees up so your feet are on the mat, if you're not already in this position, and roll over onto one of your sides, using your arm as a pillow. And just take a couple of moments here, just to take a few gentle breaths. When you're good and ready, just try to keep your eyes closed, but bring yourself up into a nice comfortable seated position on your mat. And we'll just spend a minute just taking a few final breaths before we close the class. So breathing in through your nose and let it go. Breathing in and let it go. Last one, breathing in and let it go. Now just think back to your intention that you set at the beginning of the class. Have you met that intention? Are you leaving with what you came to achieve? And think about your body now. How differently does your body feel to when you walked in and sat down on your mat? And the feeling that you're leaving with today, try and hold on to that. Try and hold on to that little bit of happiness, knowing that you can return to it at any point in your day. Thank you very much everybody for joining me, and hopefully I'll see you again at the next session. Namaste.